Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the rank 1 Terran in the world, the Frenchman from Team Liquid in the red. It's Clem, facing off against one of his greatest rivals, the Zerg in blue, the Italian stallion. We have Reynor in a best of 7 Terran versus Zerg showdown between two of the absolute fastest players in the game. So hopefully they leave me enough time to ask you to smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. Help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,715 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the first SCV, as Reynor's pool first is going to keep Clem's Reaper at bay. But the SCV keeping track of exactly how many Zerglings are produced, all the gas. Clem, not always a guarantee he'll SCV scout at all, but I think he's been burned for it a couple too many times lately and has decided he doesn't want to repeat that experience. So the SCV will scout that Reynor indeed has gas, a couple Zerglings, and Clem feeling confident enough to go for 2 command centers behind. And will he get away with it is the question. He gets away with so much. When you can rely on micro that is borderline abusive to the point where enemy units are almost invalidated. Reynor himself has said that banelings are a waste of money against Clem. Really, up until that 200 supply mark where they can just help as a sledgehammer that not even Clem can avoid. So the first Reaper, but there's a little pillar there. Gonna heal a little bit on its way across, back to the other side of the bridges, hits the grenade, bounces the Reaper itself, and finally, through the great efforts of all the Zerglings, and actually Clem starting to take this a little bit more seriously than I think he originally expected. Gonna lift the command center on the natural. He's got the Hellions on the high ground, but that was a couple more, maybe even 4 more Zerglings than he expected to be committed that early on. And technically, he scouted that Reynor did not have a 3rd hatchery. He did not have, like, it could be Roaches. It's probably not. It could be. The threat of Roaches is there. Reynor is cutting into his own economy somewhat in order to go for any sort of early aggression, but he's following it up with one of the most curious builds I've never seen, a +1 Carapace rush. The Carapace applies to all Zerg units, and in my opinion, it should be buildings as well, but who cares about that? So +1 Carapace, the staple of Zerg across the board, but it is an early tech from Reynor, just not the one that Clem, I think, is expecting. So that means the Queens are going to be, as always, the backbone of the defense. Spines and Spores, less so, no matter how appropriate that would be. Barracks on the way, +1 melee for Reynor behind it. He's filling in the mass Zergling, and we may even see banelings. TBD. But no lair yet. Double upgrade before lair. And double upgrade before Clem even has an engineering bay. Alright. This is about as far up as you're going to get before the oxygen starts getting thin. 1 engineering bay for Clem. He's trying to figure it out right now. The Hellions are darting in. Looking across, and there's absolutely nothing to tell him this is double upgrades. Unless he's willing to scan the main and see the lair, or double, and even seeing the evolution chamber at the front isn't crazy. Like, that is a normal timing for an Evo chamber. It's just the first one in the main that's the concern. It's going to be cloaked Banshees, but a lair has already begun. Is there anything to scout these Banshees? Clem's cloaked Banshees are an existential threat to anyone in their path. And, well, on the map, really, because it's not hard to move them around. One of the most microable units in the game, alongside everything else Clem builds. Well, Brenda, back up, we have a scope. The Hellions dart in, get a couple of the drones. Reynor has ground out a bit of a lead. The Queen's body blocking, just, oh, get off my screen. Susan, game 1, calm down, don't weird people out. But, yeah, screw that guy. Sorry. Hellions and Banshee driven back. And Reynor is rushing up to Hive. I assume at this point, Clem has noticed the +1 carapace. He's kind of figured out what he's dealing with. But there's not much to be done now. By the time you see it, it's already too late to punish it. All he can really do is go down that standard road of Marines, tanks, and decide exactly when to put together the timing. We're going to have 5 racks online. The only real choice left to Clem at this stage is, does he go all in with like an octo rack sort of timing? Or does he tech up a bit more, add factories, 4th command center, and progress further up the tech tree? So far, just focused on that timing. The tank tucked into its little corner. No combat shield on the way, and the Marines are going to be suffering for it. The friendly fire isn't from the siege tank. The Queen's going to take it out as well. And Clem, not a rare thing, but a painful one, to forget combat shield at this stage of the game. Plus 10 HP on the Marines is obviously a huge deal, even if your opponent isn't going for Banes. And it hasn't begun. Stim has been completed for quite a while. Clem finally realizing, but that's an even larger window where Reynor can potentially get critical damage done. Or at least Clem has to be a bit more timid with the early Marines. Banshee going to mildly inconvenience a couple more drowns. Waking up dead. Hive is nearly completed. It's not the quickest possible Hive, but it's up there. And Ultralists, I have to imagine. Not a huge stretch of the imagination, but it's good to work it out occasionally. Are on the agenda. 3 more racks on the way. Clem is up to 70 SCVs. Only 1 factory, and he just started his +2 weapons. No armor upgrade either. So even though Clem's supply is very similar, Reynor is progressing much more quickly in terms of tech. And that combat shield not done. The fungal, only gonna catch a few Marines, but the Zerglings will just fight. And most of the survivors, well, whatever can be picked up into the medevacs is done so. Is done. You got it. I did. Ultraless Cavern is on the way. It's got Reynor looking to capitalize on the situation, maybe even italicize in his case, where Clem just doesn't have the upgrades nor the unit composition to compete. Already mixing in some of the Marauders, the Marines dropping out in a difficult position to dislodge, but there's simply too many lanes. And now another drop on the left side. And so it begins. Clem gonna be trying to tear them apart at this point, whereas Reynor trying to hold it together. The drops lifted up, the medevacs ping cushion by some of the knitting needles out of the Queens. 4th base on the way, but the Ultraless Cavern is now completed. Adrenal glands. And then finally, as the late game choice, the Baneling Nest. Because the only way... Wow, that creep looks crazy on the energy bridges. Yeah, always been on in those sort of... Clem helping to get rid of it. But the Serral Fester, borrowing from his teammate here, right beneath. Gotta be a little careful when he goes off the creep. The Infestor sign. The Worm sign is very easy to spot when it's moving, but Infestors right at the front are gonna be perfectly fine. The Whittle Mine! 18 kills! A devastating blow at an important moment, but the Fungals turned it around, and they came from behind! Oh no, the Infestor from the back, and the field runs red with the blood of both sides. Infestor has enough energy for another Fungal. But the Marines and Marauders are still enough, and the medevacs are pulling it back together. The Ultralists are in production. They have yet to be delivered. Chitinous plating is 3/4 of the way done. The Ultralists jostling their way past. There's no Whittle Mines. Okay, finally 1 burrowing. No drilling claws, so it can be cleaned up afterwards. Liberator sieging up. Ultralists trundling through down the center. The Marauders gonna be chunking them up until chitinous plating is complete. And, well, in case it wasn't clear, this is one of our last matches on the old patch. The new one dropped a little bit after this tournament, and I'm sure we're going to have plenty of debates about it after you like and subscribe, but no Microbial Shroud to reduce range damage, no Ghosts as light units, no Widowmine Drilling Claws buff, and other such exciting things. We're going to argue about those soon, but today, we're living in the past. Like a week ago, but still. The Infestors scattered throughout. Liberators overhead. Clem, a little bit off guard. Just 3 Ultras. 3 Musketeers here looking to cleave their way through a planetary fortress. Widowmine, fast enough to take a big chunk of the Zerglings, but meanwhile the Terran army will take out the hatchery in the bottom left. Huge damage on both sides. The Infestor's caught in the center, as is the Planetary. So far, Planetary Fortress actually takes out one of the Ultras. But Clem's army starting to dwindle in supply. 18 SCVs taken down. Reynor still has 76 drones. He can replace his army, and he just did economic damage to Clem. The base trade does not favor him in this scenario. Reynor has enough to fall back to. He now has the income lead. There's no ghosts on the field unless their cloaking devices have gotten very good. The Infestor still waiting for its moment. Learning from his teammate for sure here. The only way to actually outmaneuver Clem is to be there before he was in the first place. The burrowed Zerglings will delay for a moment. Kiting back. The Queens will patch up the Ultralists after a couple volleys from the Marauders, but Reynor is closing in. The jaws of the Ultras on both sides. Baneling speed a little bit late in comparison to the Baneling nest. He's looking the other way. Has some Zerglings on the left side. Half a dozen Ultras down the center. Marauders flying every which way. Clem battered down to 161 supply. Though still fighting it out. Corruptors. Finally some anti-air. That isn't just the Queens who are forced to wear so many hats. The Drilling Claw, or the Super Depot rather, is taken down. The Double Depot. The Corruptors slowly working their way through the Liberators. The Ultras much less slowly working their way through the bio. The Liberators with the Venn diagram of freedom back to back, pin cushioning the Ultras with those massive hits that the armor barely touches. But Clem is taking damage throughout all this. The Ultras, a lot of them were taken down. But I think still enough survived. There is the risk, if he loses the Ultras, the Terran army can just run him over entirely. The Corruptor count, he's at 9 Corruptors, adding 3 more. There's an Ultra just casually burrowed at the front. I think, oh, well, retargeting, wow. A microcosm in every sense of the word. Clem is retargeting the Widow Mine to try to get the money shot right now. Meanwhile, Reynor just sends in a bunch of Zerglings, which may force an opportunity for, and the Ultraless pops up. The hubris of Clem. Just circle jerking that Widow Mine for long enough that they, well, I'm not sure this was better. I think Reynor just sent whatever he had, a group of units across to try to take advantage of this situation. But it feels like Clem took a greater advantage in turn. 81 drones, though. It's the economy, stupid. Generally, not you. Maybe. Moving on. A Congress of Corruptors overhead. Only 1 Ultralist. The Queens will survive for now. 2 Ultras, but not really enough. The Bio Ball is almost entirely Marauders. A single Liberator back at home. Another one gonna pin cushion. One of the Queens right overhead. The Fungal a little bit late on the draw. I think there's one more. The Ultras cleaving through, but the Ultras exploderated by the concentrated fire from the Marauders. The Zerglings are going to clean up the rest. Clem down to 100 supply. His economy is gutted. He has a planetary fortress to work with, but most of the rest of his workers are not working at all. The Corruptors. A chunk of the supply is committed to them, but they've knocked out the Liberators. They've done what they needed to do, limited the medevac count, and limiting the starport unit count really cuts down on the mobility and is the biggest sticking point for Zerg in so many Zerg versus Terran matches of this caliber. The Ultras, Widow Mine slams in. The medevac's taken down. The Infestors underneath. I'm sure Clem knows they're there. He's dropping mules mid-fight. Surprise. The Infestors finally turn around. Widow Mines will burrow. Will get a shot off. He never got Drilling Claws, which has definitely hurt over time. Not getting the Drilling Claws for the Widow Mines means they burrow slower and they don't maintain their cloak afterwards. I don't think he's had a Tech Lab factory for the majority of this game. But the lacking upgrades has been the story from start to finish, with Reynor the +1 Carapace. An odd choice, but it checks out. And now, Ultras on the left, Zerglings on the right, more Zerglings down the center. and Reynor barrels through Clem in order to take the lead. Clem caught off guard. He was scrambling so hard to figure out what Reynor was doing. It felt like a cheese. He knew Reynor was doing something. He had the gas. And I don't think anyone, I'm not even convinced Reynor would have predicted that he was going to go +1 Carapace. I feel like that's one of the, you spin the wheel of potential choices for 100-something gas in the early game. And since it's very obvious that he's going to be able to defend like a Roach all-in, one Banshee is enough usually to defend a Roach all-in. Even if it's not clean, it's clean enough. But the choice to go for the upgrades pays off. And Clem clearly caught off guard. Let's see if Reynor can keep him off balance, or if we're going to be whining about it by the end. As we go into Gresvin. Make it sound dramatic. Jimmy! Sorry. Like and subscribe so I can get some real help. Like, mentally or physically, really. Take your pick. But, again, the lack of upgrades. It's not a huge difference being an upgrade or two behind with the bio against the Zerglings. Barely seeing any Banelings as well. Reynor making it work without him. Well, it's not like it's a choice of whether to go Ling, Bane, or just Lings. No. Having, for every 6 Banelings, that's another Infestor. And making complete use of it. Clem, gonna be opting. It looks like the 2 Rags Reaper. It'll look like that to Reynor as well. Sometimes players will add a 3rd Rax somewhere to keep things spicy. And yes, it does make the difference. Because if they go normal 2 Rax Reaper, then you can usually just defend and take a 3rd. Eventually you'll get Zergling speed. But if you try to take a 3rd against 3 Rax Reaper and commit to defending it, you may just lose everything. Queens, Lings, whatever. It's a fine line. But, does he make the 3rd rank? I'm looking for it. I'm hoping for it. I don't think we're going to see it. I don't think it's better. I think it's one that maybe works once, but it's effectively all in. The 2 Rex Reaper also serving the purpose of, you know, walling off. You don't want to let the Zerg in your base, all right? They're just not good neighbors. They're not sending their best. I mean, you're the best. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I just say things sometimes on the internet. I want people to like me and maybe even subscribe. But you're most important. Reaper's on the way. Reapers it is. The Overlord. Now we know. The 2 Rags Reaper. And it's the side of the map. It's the wrong side of the map for the add-ons. And Reynor immediately a Roach Warren. He's going to try to punish it right off the bat. And he's hiding the Roach Warren because he did go pool first yet again. And, well, Clem's going to see that based on the timing of the hatchery. All right, I believe he's able to tell time, and they even provide one in the game. The fact that the queen has to amble her way down here instead of popping out of the hatchery of her own accord. Well, we'll see if Clem is caught off guard. Already poking at the queen. A 3rd Reaper. And now Roaches are in production. Reynor is all in already. Though Clem can't know that for sure. Once the Roaches pop out, that's going to be a bit of a giveaway. And by a bit, I mean at least a bite. Seeing the fact that he committed to a Roach Warren at all. Reynor is really trying to drive this back without showing the Roaches. It's not going to work. Oh, he gets one? But you can only waste so much time. Did he? Well? Oh, he's going to... He had to have seen it. Beautiful grenade. Not quite beautiful enough, and then the Roaches show up, and there go the Reapers. Finally get some confirmation. Bunker's on the way. Sound the alarms. Was not taking it as seriously as he might. The Roaches only scouted moments away from the base. A single Ravager is on the way. The economy. Reynor has 19 drones. He must do damage here. He doesn't necessarily need to kill Clem, but that would certainly be the best case scenario. Mr. Zergachev, tear down this wall. And breaking through the first depot, with a mule trying to get involved. He buys time for the bunkers to complete. The depot refuses to die, but the SCVs are more malleable. Only 2 taken out. Clem is actually supply blocked. He's got more depots on the high ground. Did he get... No concussive shells. He's actually working his way through the racks, as the bunkers aren't quite in position to deal with this. There's a cyclone in production. Again, Reynor has no follow-up whatsoever. One of the barracks will burn. Another one, the cyclone, gonna start chipping away at the more meaty parts of the Zerg composition. And, well, the bunkers are holding. The Zerglings trying to come around the corner, but the streets of the base are making it difficult. The cyclone pinned in by the SCV. You stop right there until we repair you. The cyclone is literally pinned in. The Hellion's so important here. We'll see how long it lasts. The bunkers, a couple Ravagers, scatters the corrosive bile, knocks out some of the SCVs. Siege tank casually pops out. There's a bunch of bile at the back. And Clem holds. And it wasn't even that close. There's so much bile left over. He starts stim on a badly broken tech lab, but it's still intact enough. Now, yeah, that would be a great snipe. Clem doesn't want to... The reason that Clem is not moving out right now, he has no idea if Reynor is droning or if he has another 50 Zerglings out there. Okay, he cannot risk. He might have been able to save the tech lab, but he knows the map is dark and potentially full of Zerg. Most Terrans just assume so. And, you know, that caution is warranted. There are 27 Zerglings and counting. Reynor built, like, 3 more drones. The Ravagers are so badly bruised. Corrosive bile still being spewed out. Clem commits a scan to see the drone count, and that'll tell him everything he needs to know. He needs to rebuild the wall. There's only 2 Ravagers. He just took out one of them, which means he can't take out tanks in a single volley. He's just building bunkers. He's battening down the hatches. And Clem, Reynor set up to deal with the Threeper build right off the bat. But Clem just held too strongly. Any amount of seconds was enough. The bunkers came online, the SCV micro, and here comes Reynor. Another wall! And he's stuffed at the door. The boys are pulled, and the bunker finally falls, and with it, so does Reynor. Clem thins out far too many Zerglings before Reynor is able to get close. And he holds the line. I don't blame Reynor for trying it. That was pretty much best case scenario. He was able to hide the Roach all in until it was almost at the doorstep. Against Reapers, it's unless they make a big mistake, you're not going to be able to hide it. All right, those Roaches, they command the room, okay? And you can't just take like a big scenic route around, or that kind of defeats the purpose of the whole rush idea. So, unless you get lucky and grab them with the Zerglings, which, you know, it's not going to happen. Then eventually they'll be spotted. I doubt we'll see an attempt again, at least of something so direct, but I'm sure Reynor has more up his sleeve. Persephone. That was game number 3. A very different sort of map. A very different sort of map. Thank you. Little extractor trick. Okay. 15-14 on the overlord. Or 15-15 rather. Doing the little extractor trick to get an extra drone out early. And then potentially get more economy. Apparently we've worked it out. I don't know the math on it, but now that the hatchery is 275 minerals as a slight kind of balance out for the queens being 175 instead of 150. All right. We're worth it! But Zergs have started doing the little extractor trick to pop out an extra drone. I think it has something to do with larva management mechanics, or honestly, it just feels fancy as well. All right. You start another larva, another drone, and another one's going to pop out earlier. You never want to be maxed at 3 larvae on your hatchery, because you're effectively wasting it at that point. Use it. You don't lose it. It just kind of stagnates. But, I mean, we've all been there. Now, the injects on the hatchery for the queens, on the other hand, you can go up to 19 larvae, sometimes 20. It's actually a little quirky. But the base 3 hatchery that you get early on, or the base 3 larvae on the base hatchery. We're just gonna take a moment. Anyways, those 3 larvae are relevant. The injects are relevant, but they're 2 separate things. Right, 2 different columns. 3 larvae for the hatch, the rest for the injects. All right. Managed to use many word when few word would have done trick, but here we are. SCV. Is he not gonna try to block? The Reaper's coming across, but the drone? A sneaky pathing. Reaper pops into the main base. Reynor knows the timing, but the Queen still pretty far off. Very quick Reaper. Ugh. The Zerglings. Struggling. And they killed the drone. Emotional damage. And, you know, physical damage. For all the fire and fury. Just getting the first drone. It feels so bad as Zerg. And I think, unlike someone like Serral, Reynor is likely to tilt off that. You're not supposed to get the first round, okay? That's the agreement. We go back and forth. The Reaper flirts with the Queen. The Queen files for harassment. But I think it's because of the quick jump and the quick air distance. The Reaper able to jump into the main. You get a few more seconds, a few more shots, a little bit more alone time with those drones. And we're going to completely derail this train of thought as soon as possible. The point being, he killed a drone, and that's really annoying. Well, Brenda bounce. And the Queen's able to protect the creep tumor, at least. Second gas on the way at the natural. Not necessarily implying anything. Many players prefer to take it there. Partially to hide it from any overlords at the edge of the base. Partially because that's where you want the majority of your SCVs later on. Oh, bounces in. He's just going to try to jump in. And correctly realizing that speed was delayed. A bunch of badly bruised Hellions. And by that I mean 2. But that's too many! Oh, the drones are going to suffer for it. 3 drones dead. The rest have to do a ring around the hatchery maneuver. And in fact, but wait, there's more! Oh my. And Brenda, can you walk any faster? I literally can't if you know that, Susan. I don't. Zergling speed is finally done. Let's take a look. Let's bring up the graph. 5 drones dead hurts. The mining time lost hurts less, but it still hurts as well. Especially since Clem came in with the follow-up Hellions to the 3rd, and I think he got a couple out. Cloak is on the way. He's going to try to save the Hellions with the Banshee. The Zerglings on the chase. They didn't chase hard enough. Oh, he's going to go to the healing shrine. Ooh. And they're going to come back. Not a single mineral or gas spent repairing. Saves the drone with transfuse. But Reynor taking the brunt of it on all sides, and not in a fun way to start things off. Down 3 workers, and the script is pretty much flipped. Double engineering bay. Reynor does not even have an Evo chamber. Is he gonna do a Baneling all in? What else is there? He doesn't have Evo chambers. He's going to be at least 30 seconds behind on upgrades. The Banshees. They're still chewing away. And this is one of those... It's just been an increasingly slippery slope. The first Hellions get in and deny some mining time. Not too bad. More Hellions come in. So Reynor commits more and more to the drones. But then he's not quite ready for the Cloaked Banshees. And now more Hellions. He's building 3 Evo chambers. I think 2 for upgrades and 1 for objecting to the presence of those Hellions. A little temporary block there. But... wow. The production is coming online. And Clem remembered combat shield. Also very important, the second factory is on the way. Drilling claws. Not going to be too far off, more than likely, with this sort of composition. Reynor had 69 drones, but that's not nice enough. He needs more, especially considering Clem's going to have a nearly 1 to 1.5 minute upgrade advantage. The Hellbats to start off. Baneling speed is on the way, but there are no Banelings. And the Queens. Whoa, the Hellbats getting some big slices. The Frenchmen looking to cut down the Queens. A revolutionary tactic, but they will be able to hold for now. One taken out, but Clem dancing around the edge. Banelings without speed are just target practice for him. And then the Banshees come in. They finish off one Queen. Another. The Widow Mines. And it's just spiraling. At no point, Reynor has not found his footing. He's scrabbled back up, and Clem gonna put him down again. This might be over pretty much before it started. Targeting the Baneling. Speed is done. One Baneling could take out all those Marines. Good luck. Now that was just gratuitous. The stim into full autumn colors. A couple more Banes. He almost goes too far. The Widow Mines are an existential threat. The hatchery. The Marines. Either going to be winning the game or going to rehab. Maybe both at this rate. Just tearing through Reynor, and the Clempire strikes back. Wow. Hitting everything. And then coming back for seconds. The upgrade's not even done for Reynor. He tried to cut the corner. He tried to get the, well, he didn't have gas. He tried to get the third base up quick enough so that way Clem couldn't block it. Get a little bit more economy. And Clem recognized it. He can tell. And also he was in the main base with the Reaper. He could see exactly when or that Reynor was going to have Zergling speed. And without it, well, 2 Hellions and a Reaper are still a deadly threat. Was that the first game Reynor didn't go pull first? Maybe regretting it. Well, Clem keeping his feet to the fire, or whatever drones have. But if you'd like to see more Zerg feet, you can check out my Dronely fans after you like and subscribe. Moving on. Jimmy. Tokamak. Game number 4. Reynor going to need to reset here somewhat. That was textbook. Like, nothing Clem did was a big gamble, a big risk. Sending in 2 Hellions and a Reaper against someone you know is not going to have speed, that's not a big risk. Committing the first Reaper on a map with one of the closest Reaper rush distances, not a real risk. The second, Cloaked Banshees, absolute staple. There is no part of that was Clem gambling he might get the damage done. If those Hellions had died immediately, it would not have been a massive loss. In fact, I doubt Clem would be far behind at all. But they didn't. Drones died, mining time lost, and it was never regained. When Clem's literally and figuratively on fire, it looks impossible. That's why I think Reynor has been trying to take the initiative. It's just a huge commitment to go for early aggression in Zerg. Because if you pick wrong, or you miss the mark, you can't recover economically. Like, roaches are very vulnerable, obviously, to banshees and siege tanks, and really anything in any early tech that isn't Reapers and Marines. But we'll see what Reynor decides to do. He does have the hatch first this time, but he's up against the 2-Rax Reaper on the right side of the map, which is the right side. There are only a few things in the game actually affected by which side of the map you're on. The add-ons of Terran, always in that kind of back right corner. And the hatchery, this is more relevant in ZVZ, but can still be relevant depending on the exact scenario. The queen and the larva are always to the south side of the hatch. We're using cardinal directions for some reason. Feels appropriate. So, especially in Zerg versus Zerg, like if you're in Clem's map position, there's a much higher risk your queen gets caught by early Zerglings if it pops out on the other side of your mineral line. Also, very technically, it takes a little bit longer for the drones to get to mining, which cuts into your economy by, I imagine, fractions of a %. But not 0. But Reynor is on the right side of things, which is the left. He killed a drone. Now it's not. It's more. He can't keep getting away with it. He can and he will right now. Reapers get in and jump up to the high ground, but Reynor is prepared. Zergling speed is on the way, but the queens anticipating trying to body block. And it might be enough. Let them eat creep. Okay, Marie. Again, it's going to be a quick Evo chamber. And now Reynor's taking advantage after shutting down the early Reapers. Clem dug too deep and too greedily. He went too far, and even before Zergling speed. Now he's safe back at home. I think part of that was knowing that Zerglings are not going to be a real threat on the other side of the map. And remember last time he went 2-Rax, Reynor went for Roaches. So I think part of it was making sure he scouted all of the creep to where Roach Warren could be. Been a while since we saw a proxy Roach Warren play, which is technically possible, but don't. Just don't. Carapace first. Yet again for Reynor. His only successful game thus far was with that early armor. The Hellions a little bit late to stop the spread. And the Queens, quite happy about that. Bear is on the way. A Liberator for Clem. The cheapest possible option in so many ways, but still able to put pressure on and get inordinate damage if not dealt with quickly. Definitely much cheaper. It doesn't require a tech lab. You don't need cloak. One Liberator can win the game on its own. It probably won't, but the range of damage that a Liberator can do is probably almost higher than any unit in the game. At least any regularly built one. Or it could just fly into a spore a bunch of queens and die, and Clem will be behind. He's already a little behind. Those Reapers being lost and Reynor being able to get his third and his Carapace upgrade means that Clem is actually, even though he might not realize it, he's actually a little behind economically. And in terms of tech as well. Reynor has 300 gas and no second evo. Now he's grabbing the Hellions. Good micro on the Zerglings to split the lines of fire. Oh, get out of here. He gives away the Liberator. Bit optimistic. And a Hydralisk den. Oh, awkward. A Hydralisk den on the way. That's going to be the choice. The first time making a cameo appearance. Already +2 Carapace as well. The double drop, but a great Zergling counter right as the Medivacs move out. Reynor's at 68 drones. The Zerglings get in, and then they decide that's not where they want to be. The Liberator slips by. Will get the damage done. Clem might be able to get the cancel on the 4th base. The Queens are fighting directly. The Spore Crawler repositioning. Gets the cancel on the base! But Kelly's like someone else in the wreckage, brothers. Yikes. I don't know. Clem leaves behind some of the surviving Marines as one of the Medivacs is taken out by the knitting needles of the Queens. Infestation bit is on the way, but the Hydras. And this time, ranged attack is the choice. Does he know anything about this yet? He has not seen the lair. He's not seen the Hydra Den. There's no indicator for Clem. Now, what do you do differently? Probably more siege tanks. And generally be less committed with the Medivacs. The best counter to the Hydras is usually a strong, direct timing, as opposed to dropping absolutely everywhere, because the Hydras are better equipped to deal with the smaller groups of units. But, of course, they're not here yet. Clem will spot them. The Lurker Den and the Hive are already on the way. And ranged Lurkers are an existential threat to all Terrans, especially ones that don't seem to be interested in going ghosts at all. Like this one. Like Clem. We got it. Moving on. Medivacs. Short hop away. Another double drop heading out. Clem stabilizing. He's going to have the Octo Rex. 71 LCVs. But the Medivac able to boost away just in time. Catches the tail end of those Hydras. Some Marauders mixed into the composition, but there are no Banelings, so Marauders are actually not a huge part. In fact, Marauders just kind of inefficient. Helpful against Lurkers, potentially, though. There's Vipers on the way. Lurker range. Optimistic hatchery. No cancel. Quite painful. Not a huge deal, but not a small deal. All right. A medium-sized deal. Like your mother. Ghost Academy's on the way. Clem acknowledging that it's going to be Lurkers. If Reynor hasn't already gone Hydraling Bane all in, it's going to be Lurkers. Maybe with a side of Vipers. Tutu's on the way. He's doing a great job of keeping the creep under control. But, Reynor is, for the most part, able to spread it out the most important directions, keep it outside his base, so that way Clem has to deal with the creep as opposed to the hatchery itself. That's usually the priority. The Lurkers are spotted. 2 tanks at a time. Ghosts in production. And, well, the board is set. It's going to be Lurker Hydra Ling up against Ghosts and tanks. But Clem is still scrambling to build up that sort of composition. The Vipers in a precarious spot. Reynor actually dragged back. The hatchery will be targeted, and Clem is tearing right through it. He picks up the Medivacs. The parasitic bombs. Hey! Oh, whoa! It's fine. He's fine. A strong gust of wind would take out that Medivac, but the weather forecast says there's no storms as we got rid of the Protoss a while ago. Wow, those Medivacs all in the red, but not quite dead. As Clem, at the end of the day, he's fled, but the damage, the hatchery, already dead. Baneling, Nast, Adrenal Glands, Hydra, Lunge, the rest. Besides Aspire from Reynor. Just assume he's getting the rest. The Lurkers eviscerated the attempt at taking out the 6 o'clock base. Reynor now has the gold base down the center. Clem has retreated into his shell for the most part, but a double Nidus is on the way. Reynor gonna try to break him. Worming in every side. And, well, Reynor doesn't have that much gas. He has to be a little bit careful. Building 7 Overseers. The Oversight Committee. A roguelike strategy. Some of my favorite games, but been playing Mega Bonk. Much easier than this one. Moving on. Well, to an extent. Carapace. Adrenal glands. Who took down these rocks? I'm not sure if it was Reynor or Clem, but they're here now, and now he's making sure that they don't become a threat. A dozen Overseers? He's really doing the mass changeling play. Wow. Reynor does not... Again, he only has 200 gas. He's making 20 creep tumors right now. Spreading, metastasizing over the entire map. Fusion core is on the way for Clem. But he's just going to tier 3. Battle cruisers, I doubt are on the agenda at this stage. And changeling slipping through, but I'm certain there's going to be more where that came from. 1 Nidus, just a tactical Nidus. But I'm sure just throwing it out there so Clem feels like nowhere is safe. Changeling getting into the main. Clem is maxed out with no reinforcements on the way. A double Nidus in the main could do it. He has nothing nearby. And Reynor hasn't sent out a bunch of changelings. That would have been too obvious. But instead, he sent 1 or 2. A single Nidus in the main. Another Nidus on his side. The Mass Overseer, the main army. The Nidus may actually scream into existence in the main base. But there's nothing in it. At least for now, but then he pops out the Lurkers and he might regret it. Well, there's a lot of army here, but even 3 Lurkers. He's adding to the problem. We've arrived! The Queens! The Queens out in front. They'll take the hits. The engineering bays are in a precarious position. I'm not convinced this is an ideal spot for Reynor. The Queens are actually holding it together. And more Lurkers. +3 looks like it's gonna finish with seconds to spare, which is very important here. But the Queen's out in front. The Ghosts back out a bit. The Lurkers, the Queens are interrupting the few Ghosts that the Lurkers do not. And now Reynor's creep spreading in the main. Meanwhile, the Overseers and Blinding Clouds on the Planetary. The Hydras take out multiple bases. This has gotten so entrenched. Oh no! The Lurkers just slicing through the majority of the army. Well, Clem has got it on the field. 98 more Zerglings in production. A wave of changelings. And Clem, it just grew from a small issue into a potentially game-ending set of thorns in his side. The Queens keeping the Lurkers alive and eating some of the snipes while interrupting the Ghosts. The offensive Queen Nidus. Clem is still nearly maxed out, but he's lost most of his map position. He's still struggling, and Reynor is using these as distractions. The main army is coming down the center. The Nidus is just the icing on the cake here. Weird icing. The Overseers overhead, making it hard for anyone to tell what's going on, which I think is most difficult for the Ghosts. And Clem just taps it out. Still has an army, but if you look at the banks, 4,900 minerals, 3,500 gas. Reynor just swarms over Clem. A disaster. But an immaculate game out of Reynor. The first Nidus to just keep Clem on his own side of the map. The mental damage, I think it did there. As Clem kind of retreated, expecting to be able to take out the Niduses, but really, I thought those 3 Lurkers would be cleaned up and then we'd move on with the game. But Reynor did not think that. Bringing the Queens through was a bold move that could have backfired horribly. But then again, that's most of Reynor's playstyle, so... I... 'Cause Well, and now, speaking of worms from the sand, sandworm. We're all tied up. Reynor able to bring it back even. A clear trend. Either Clem is able to really use those early game units to great effect, or Reynor overwhelms him. Clear cut so far. Now, of course, on Gresvin, it was Reynor who decided to get aggressive, and Clem held it down. Now, this map does pose some difficulties for Zerg. These sand spires are quite an impediment to most melee units, even if they can move through them, and offer a lot of opportunity for siege tanks to find a very... How am I going to phrase? Let's not editorialize. A very effective location. You can't just say infuriating. That's... I'm 1/3 Zerg myself, alright? Some of my best friends are Zerg. So, you gotta empathize. Pull first on a Reynor. It's going to be not a 2 Rex, just 1 Rex expand for Clem. We'll see if Reynor has anything unprovoked he'd like to do. As in early Roach timings. There's really not too many options. And I think out of respect, Clem kind of goes back and forth on SCV scouting. Most Terrans do, trying to get min-max those builds, get your command center or your SCVs that much quicker. But the 5% chance they're actually doing a crazy pull first, I think outweighs any slight benefits you get in a more standard game. And so far, that SCV scout has really paid off, allowing Clem that little bit of extra info he needs to do that early damage. Oh, wow. Pops up to the high ground. Trying to poke in as far as possible. Not just the tip for Clem, but instead sometimes jumping all the way into the main. A bold move. Widely considered quite rude, but what are you going to do about it? Revolution chamber on the way. Reynor with that plus. It looks like it's going to be the +1 Carapace again. The new build. And so far, it's paid off for him. Okay. All right. Churlish. Insubordinate. That... 8 Terrans. Simple as. Okay, Brenda. Ever since the war, right? Before then! Sure. Wow. So, Reynor runs in, sees nothing. He may have spotted the bottom of the ramp, but either way, he knows it's not nothing. At the very least, it's some Marines. Probably Hellions. Though having 3 Marines at all is a little odd. A 3rd command center is already done for Clem, but +1 Carapace is on the way for Reynor. It's really paid dividends. That is one thing. Zergs usually struggle to keep up with Terran upgrades. Getting the Evo chambers always feels like an awkward timing, but Reynor just getting it right off the bat, not even thinking twice. It's going to delay his lair, inevitably. And that means Cloaked Banshees are a much stronger option. Of course, Spore Crawlers are there to ask the Banshees not to kill too many drones, but that's really all they can do without the Queens nearby. Second Evo chamber. Wow. Reynor. He knows where his biscuit is buttered. It's those upgrades. But again, the delay on the lair. Oh, jumps in. The Zerglings, but the Marines, a wall on the ramp. The Zergling's gonna actually stutter step. Some SCVs will go down. Right. Right. Yes. One. Wow. Drilling like they do with the minerals. 2. 3. Clem's SCV micro to stack them up with the mineral walk there and minimize the potential damage, while the Banshee just works on everything. It works out perfectly. Clem only a few workers behind. And now the Banshee Hellion poking in. Lair just started. Still over 30 seconds out, which means the Queens transfuse, but there's a Spore in the mineral line, but that gives up a lot of ground to the Banshees and Hellions. He's just gonna run. No, he can't go in there. That's restricted. Lair space. Hellions run by, and honestly, could have been much worse. Only 3 drones. I think that's more of a case of Clem asking whether or not he could than whether or not he should. The Banshees actually run out of energy for the most part before the Queens are too badly bruised. It takes 25 energy just to flip on that cloaking device, and then a little under I think 1 energy a second. I'm not sure if it's exactly 1 nowadays. Maybe been 1 in StarCraft time, back when we counted by then. Anyways, it drains energy pretty quickly. So Reynor, not going to have nearly the economic lead he did in the previous game, but he is going to still have the upgrade lead. It'll be about 30 seconds on +1, about a minute on +2. There is no Baneling Nest, no Hydralisk Den. So, literally just Zerglings and Queens. Clem's moving out. The Banshees! Oh no. Losing any amount of Queens early. Another base. 2 bases being taken. +1 is now done. Reynor's done with 1-1 himself. But the surface area isn't there. The Zerglings. Clem just unloading. They don't run out of ammo. Takes out the hatch. Most of the Marines will get away. Reynor did double expand. In fact, he's building 3 hatcheries right now as he rebuilds that base. If he can get Clem to focus on just 1 base and let the others get up, I mean, one of them is a macro hatch, as Reynor is literally going mass Zergling. Infester, Zergling Queen. The Banshee's still swinging in. 20 kills on that Banshee. Vast majority of them lings. I think that was the home defense Banshee. Good fun for the whole family. Buy today. 2 for 1. Hell yeah, brother. Reinforcing even more Marines. Oh, and the supply. Look at it. 152 to 136. The Infestors are popping out. The Hive is halfway done, but right now, Reynor's in purgatory. He doesn't have the upgrades. He doesn't have the tech, but he does have a big counterattack. A single siege tank on the high ground will help. The home defense Banshee is back on guard. Gonna help whittle things down. The SCV's on the run towards the 3rd. Gonna shift right back. He needs the upgrades. Reynor cannot fight until it gets the upgrades. Cancel, kill. Not sure what happened on the hatch, but it's down now, and Clem is moving forward. Hive tech just finished. It's a long way from kicking in any way. Clem setting up in that siege tank spread. I can't believe it's not butter. As right now, Reynor going to have a doozy of a day dismantling this. Fungal slows down some of the Marines. And if he doesn't break this soon, the reinforcements can come across the map. The siege tanks getting caught up on the other side. The other flank of Zerglings is cutting off the reinforcements, but can he stop the Marines that are already on the front lines? Infester pops out. The medevacs are out of energy. The Marines are nearly out of life. But not quite. Oh no. The Zergling count is under the Marine count. He picks up into the medevacs. The Banshee with 28 kills is finally knocked out. He drops out. The Infestors are recharging energy. The 4th base is on the low ground, already cut off. Guns down an Infestor. Could potentially get a Queen. Medevac knocked out of the sky. Reynor scrambling to get anything to deal with this. An Ultralisk Cavern, more Infestors. But I think he's just coming up short. Clem hit the mark here, and he kept driving the point home before Reynor could defend his. The Hive tech did not kick in time. The commitment to the upgrades was not enough to counteract the strength of the composition. The Fungal's trying to melt away the Marines, but more will replace them. It's not about how many you lose. It's about how many are now streaming across the map. And Clem tearing through Reynor to go to match point. A titanic effort, but eventually Reynor underwater. It's a big gamble to go for the mass Zergling. You're reliant on every fight going your way because your units are so cheap, but you have so many of them. But if you're not able to find those fights, the Terran army is just better. All right, in similar supply, let alone ahead. The Infestors were not there by the time the upgrades kicked in. Just wasn't enough. Reynor's +1 Carapace maybe going a little bit too far. Jimmy, what do you mean we have to log in every game because it's an old replay? Everything's old. There was a patch like 3 days ago. No, I'm running out of memes. Sorry, like and subscribe so we can get our best meme monkeys back on it. I meant Protoss players, sorry. We do it live from replay. But Maestros, the game, one of my favorite tournaments, if not my favorite this year. The vibes, so good. The games, even better. Thank you to Comeback TV, French organization, for putting it on. I really hope there's more in the future. Of course, for match point, we're going to Golden Wall. Not an impossible map for Zerg, but it does call for creativity. And there's so many little nooks and crannies and mineral walls and locations where you can jam a siege tank or a liberator or just a reaper. That makes it difficult early. Of course, the same is true. We've seen players like Serral use Ravagers with corrosive bile to hit mineral lines on the backside. And yes, this is the Golden Wall of old. The tournament, including a community and kind of a greatest hits in one way or another of the StarCraft 2 ladder pool. Not limited to this season, as you know, well, for the 17 of you that actually play, the ladder maps are not... Well, it's whenever the intern gets, like, their biannual lunch break. Okay. Is when it seems the maps. They no longer are tied to the start of a season. In fact, last season, we actually had 15 maps on the ladder for a while because new ones were added without taking away the old ones. In fact, I'm kind of a fan of having a bunch more maps and a bunch more vetoes. But, of course, I think it comes down to the StarCraft 2 engine is too good. Units are too good at following your orders. No matter if they're walking all my Marines into Banelings or Storm or Siege Tanks, they're very good at it. They respond quickly and efficiently. And that's why having a lot of curious map features is difficult because of, well, things like Liberators or Blink Stalkers that can very quickly take advantage of any sort of awkward angle. I mean, part of that is baked in. And part of that, not so much. We'll see. Double. He goes for the gold. And he builds it on location. The Overlord on the Pervert Pillar is not enough. It's just a few pixels away, but a few very important pixels from seeing that base. And not knowing that the gold base is building on location, that, what he doesn't know, can very much hurt him. Hellions heading out. There's that Evo chamber. On the high ground. Double Evo this time. The Queens, politely yet firmly, asking the Terrans to leave. The Terrans, never been polite in their entire lives. Cloak Banshees. A safe, solid, uninspired, but, you know, they're a staple for a reason. For over 2/3 of Clem's life, Cloaked Banshees with Hellions have been the Terran versus Zerg opener, and even to this day, the 1-1-1, the Barracks, the Factory, the Starport, the Destiny Cloud Fizz build, I think, I heard in a fever dream, but still a staple of keeping the Zerg at bay. Whittling down the creep without committing a huge amount of your minerals, so that way you can still get a third command center, can get more barracks production, and defend against any sort of Zergling counters. Maybe Roaches. Lairs on the way. No upgrades yet out of Reynor. He's got that double Evo, but he chooses to get the lair first. Double Engineering Bay for Clem coming up. He has not yet spotted the third. Though he may have spotted the SCV transfer. There's no way he built this many SCVs out of here, so he has to know about the third, right? Like, even if he hasn't physically seen it. Oh, that would hurt a lot if he doesn't. Like,
Newly birthed queen ready.
+1 Carapace on the way, but Clem's already working on 1-1. He's going to have the upgrade advantage. It's probably not going to be significant, but any sort of edge is something that Clem can wield and cut right through you. Yeah, there we go. +1 melee on the way, and 5 barracks in production. Clem with the Octo Rex off the back of a gold base. Meanwhile, the Cloak Banshees will work around the edges of Spore range. There is an Overseer, but the Hellions darting in, take out a Creep Tumor. And Reynor struggling. Hellions, the hubris, the scan. He goes so deep onto the creep, trusting that the Zergling count is not going to be high enough to challenge him. And he's right. And here come the Banshees come back. Hellions go in. Banshees come in. Hellions go out. You can't explain that. 73 drones, though. It's not a critical blow. He's just keeping him bottled up. He's keeping him busy. So that way he'll have enough at home by the time Reynor actually builds up to defend. We've got Roaches in production, but no Roach speed. Does he? He'll notice. He'll notice. Maybe Mass Ravager? It feels like Reynor's going all in, but Clem is already coming across the map. He has Combat Shield on the way. And the Roaches and Queens, the Hellbat's been thinned out. The Widow Mines slam into a Queen. The Roaches, made of sturdier stuff. Holding for now. The +1 Carapace really working out. Baneling speed is finally on the way. Infestation Pit now about to complete, but Clem is going to be laying on the pressure. And will Reynor crack under it? That is a lot of Marines. Baneling speed still 30 seconds out. He can target. He gets 1, 2, 3! And without any Banelings, Reynor's army is, well, ambitious. The Roaches don't have speed. Corrosive Bile comes through, trying to drag out the Widowmine hits, but they connect on the midst of the Roaches. It looks like Reynor will hold for now. The Banshees are back. Not repaired either. The Ravagers try to hold, but Clem is just leaning on him. It's so many Marines, and they're able to just dance out of Roach range just barely before getting too much damage done. The parade continues. And if it doesn't get stopped soon, it'll just be celebrating Clem's victory. 2-2's on the way for both sides. Reynor backed up against his home base. The Queen's running low on energy, but so are the Medivacs. The Widowmine zoning out any sort of direct attack. Still no Roach speed. He can't close the distance on those Marines. Roach is not known for their agility, but even more so, struggling here. Trying to retarget the Widowmines in the midst of the fight. Drags out a few more hits. Corrosive Bile dances away. Comes up completely empty. But Reynor has held with 77 drones in the bank, and Clem only has 61 SCPs. The parade has been stalled, but it has not been stopped. The Roach speed just started. The Marines in autumn colors. A single Infestor could win the game for Reynor right now, but a single Infestor is something he does not have. The Marines and Marauders continue to trundle across the map, hitting the stims over and over again. But the Medivacs keeping them intact for now. 2-2 about to complete Clem. 4th command center now mining. +2/+2 infantry weapons and armor. And that is a big advantage in a fight that's been on a razor's edge for this long. Allowing him to cut that much closer, but the Banelings rolling in. The creep pushed back nearly to the top of the base. The tug of war continues. I believe a Hive completed, but what can he do with it? +2 melee attack about to complete. Clem maintains a supply lead. Corrosive Bile almost dodges away with the Widowmine. No drilling claws for now. Banelings rolling in. Medivacs strained for energy. Most of the Banelings are taken down. Widowmine as well. Reynor down to 163 supply. 175 for Clem. The Banelings are targeted. The momentum seems to have shifted as Clem continues working his way forward. The Ravagers trying to snipe off the Widowmines. If he gets caught too far out, the Widowmines retargeted onto the Queens, takes him out. Corrosive Bile's a little off the mark, and those Widowmines are recharging, and one hasn't yet fired. Another one. These Marines and Marauders continually in the Twilight Zone as they fight against the Roaches and Ravagers, but Reynor can't seem to get enough together to drive this back. The Terran army is holding the line. The high ground. The Overseer drags in the mine hits, but not far enough over the top. I don't think it was intentional. Reynor scrambling through. The Banelings trickling through the Roaches and Ravagers, but where he needs a flood, he has but a babbling brook. And at this point, Clem will brook no contest, as the Roaches and Ravagers are simply not good enough. 3-3s on the way. Queens get their many legs broken by the concussive shells. The high ground, as long as the Medivacs don't wander into the Corrosive Bile like Hero has taken the wheel, then Reynor will get whittled down. It's not getting any easier. The creep spread, the Zergling count, the fact that he survived this long. I really thought this would go one way or the other, but Clem is not getting hit by the Banes, and Reynor's macro is impeccable. He's managed to find +3 carapace throughout all this, but the Widowmine is dragged back into the Roaches. The Marines and Marauders managed to get back up into the yellow, which is as far as they've gotten for a while. Oh, what a beautiful synchronized split to get away from the Corrosive Bile without giving up his position. Clem continues across the map. The Marines and Marauders are marching. But finally, it feels Reynor has held. But we have to ask ourselves that question. Have you liked and subscribed? And at what cost? He's down 30 supply. What did it cost? Everything! The medevacs completely drained. The Ravagers and Banes trying to connect. +3 Carapace closing in, but 3-3. +3 weapons is completed for the infantry. I can't believe Reynor's held on this long. And Parasitic Bomb might be enough. 2 Parasitic Bombs, and Clem quarantines the medevac so quickly. They boosted over the top. But he actually catches the army. He's gonna commit to taking out the hatch. The Corrosive Bile only hits Zerg. And Clem, he might keep losing the edges of battles. But so far, he's still winning the war. Another command center. In the top left corner, Reynor lost drones, and he lost income. The incomes have been so close throughout this, but Clem has maintained a 20 to 40 army supply advantage. Now the supply finally reflecting it. The Terran army has been healed up to full. Reinforcements have been gathered. The Corrosive Biles have been dodged with just disgusting and painful ease. The Banelings, barely a threat. The Blinding Cloud, a momentary obstacle. Banelings roll in, but Reynor, I think, will be rolling out. There's simply not enough left. G, in one of the greatest back-and-forth tug-of-war efforts. All credit to Reynor for holding on by the skin of his weird Zerg teeth for so long. But at the end of the day, Clem never stopped battering down the door. He had a better army with better upgrades. He wasn't able to capitalize because of Reynor's perfect macro and his tenacity. But Reynor had no hope of counterattacking under that much pressure. Eventually, the momentum was too great. At the end of the game, Clem had 13 medevacs, and Reynor just had no way to deal with it. What a brawl of a series. Reynor able to take home some big macro games, but Clem finding his timings and just cutting the point home. Thank you again, Maestros of the Game, Comeback TV, and you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Thank you. If you got the means and motivation for checking out Patreon or YouTube membership, but I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. And thank you to our mule tier patrons bringing in those extra minerals. Big Jake and Davendor, Drac, Kate, Mario, and Suit. Glad you still enjoy, everyone. Good luck. Have fun. See you next time. Stay chill.
Thank you.